If all you do is chase money, you'll spend your life trading your time for it. But if you learn how to build wealth, you create something that works even when you don't. That's the true freedom. When your assets earn while you sleep and your lifestyle isn't chained to your next paycheck. So today, I will teach you how wealthy approach money differently from the rest. You'll learn why they value systems over salaries, assets over hours, and how they structure their lives so that wealth becomes inevitable. By the end, you won't just understand what separates making money from building wealth. You'll know how to step over that line and begin building a life that's secure, abundant, and free. Wealth doesn't begin with the bank account. It begins with the mind. Your philosophy about money will determine whether your hands are open to receive and preserve it, or whether it will slip through your fingers like sand. I've met people earning 6 figures who are broke, and I've met others making a modest living who are financially secure. The difference isn't the paycheck, it's the philosophy guiding their choices. To change your financial life, you must first change the way you think about money. Start with principles. Money should work for you, not the other way around. Every dollar should have a purpose before it leaves your hand. And remember, your philosophy shapes your habits shape your results, and your results shape your fortune. The fortune you build tomorrow is being decided by the philosophy you live by today. Choose it wisely. There's a world of difference between being rich and being wealthy. Being rich is about having money today. It's the full bank account, the nice car, the impressive vacation photos. But being wealthy, that's about having the means to sustain your lifestyle, not just for today, but for decades, even generations. Rich is a snapshot. Wealth is a legacy. I've met people who looked rich. They had the clothes, the gadgets, the house on the hill, but if you pulled back the curtain, you'd see they were one missed paycheck, one market downturn, one medical bill away from financial collapse. Then I've met people who didn't look rich at all. They lived modestly, but behind the scenes, they owned assets that paid them over and over again. They could live for years without working, not because they were lucky, but because they had built wealth. When I was starting out, I thought my goal was to be rich. I wanted the symbols, things people could see. But I learned that the wealthy think differently. They don't measure success by how much they can spend today. They measure it by how long they can sustain tomorrow. The wealthy buy assets before they buy symbols. They plant trees that give shade for decades before they sit in them. The truth is, being rich is fragile. It depends on the continued flow of income from your own labor. But wealth is resilient. It's powered by assets, investments, businesses, real estate that produce income whether you're working or not. Wealth is what allows you to take a year off without a dent in your finances. It's what allows your children to start their lives ahead instead of behind. If you have money but no plan for turning it into wealth, you're walking a tightrope with no safety net. But if you focus on building wealth, you can weather any storm. Remember, rich is what you earn, wealth is what you keep, grow, and pass on. One fades, the other endures. The goal isn't to look rich for a season, it's to be wealthy for a lifetime. One of the most liberating lessons I ever learned is that wealth is not built in paychecks, it's built in percentages. You see, too many people focus entirely on how much they make. They chase a bigger salary, a bigger deal, a bigger bonus, thinking that if they could just get more, everything else would fall into place. But the truth is, I've met people with enormous incomes who are still living paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because they kept none of it. It's not about the size of the check. It's about the size of the portion you keep, protect, and put to work. If you earn $1,000 and save 10%, you've started to build wealth. If you earn $10,000 and spend it all, you've built nothing but a more expensive lifestyle. When I was starting out, I didn't have much, but I learned to treat a small percentage as untouchable. My mentor told me, it's not the amount, it's the habit. If you can't save a dime out of a dollar, you won't save 10,000 out of 100,000. The habit has to come first, because the habit is what grows into wealth over time. The wealthy understand this. They don't just rely on windfalls or big breaks. They harness the quiet, consistent power of percentages. A steady, disciplined investment of a small slice of your income compounds year after year, turning modest beginnings into substantial fortunes. The magic isn't in the occasional leap, it's in the consistent climb. Think of it like planting seeds. You don't wait for the perfect season to plant them all at once. You plant a few every time you have the chance. Over the years, those seeds grow into an orchard that produces without fail. That's how percentages work. If you measure wealth only by your paycheck, you'll always be starting over. But if you measure it by how much you keep and multiply, you'll be building something that pays you for the rest of your life. Wealth isn't a number you earn, it's a percentage you keep. Most people follow a financial formula that keeps them trapped. Earn, spend, and save whatever scraps are left over. But the wealthy, they flip that formula completely. They earn, they invest first, and then they spend what's left, if there's anything left at all. That single shift changes everything. When I was starting out, I did what most people do. My paycheck came in, and before I knew it, it was gone. Spent on things I thought I needed. Savings was an afterthought, and investing wasn't even on the radar. Then my mentor challenged me, why are you giving your future the leftovers of your present? That question hit me hard. I realized I was feeding my short-term desires and starving my long-term security. The wealthy understand that money is a worker. If you put it to work, the moment it arrives, it can start producing more money. But if you let it sit idle, or worse, spend it on things that disappear in value, you've lost that opportunity forever. The wealthy treat investing like paying a bill. It's non-negotiable. It happens before the first dinner out, before the new gadget, before the weekend getaway. This isn't about denying yourself. It's about prioritizing your future. When you invest first, you're saying, my tomorrow matters as much as my today. And here's the beauty. Over time, the income from those investments can cover your lifestyle entirely. That's when true financial freedom begins, when your money works harder than you do. I've met people who say, I'll invest when I have more left over, but that day never comes, because lifestyle always expands to match or exceed income. The only way to break that cycle is to make investing the first priority, not the last. If you want wealth, stop giving your future the crumbs. Invest first and spend what's left. If nothing is left, so be it. You've just bought yourself a piece of freedom. Wealth doesn't just live in your bank account, it lives in your mind first. You can hand a fortune to someone with a poor mindset, and within a short time, they'll be broke again. Why? Because their thinking is still rooted in poverty. A poor mindset spends quickly, avoids risk, and clings to comfort zones. It fears change because change requires growth, and growth demands responsibility. I've seen it happen over and over. People get a raise, a bonus, or even an inheritance, and within months, it's gone. The problem wasn't the lack of money, it was the lack of a wealth mindset. The wealthy think differently. They don't see money as something to consume immediately. They see it as a tool to build, to multiply, to create more. When I was young, I was guilty of poverty thinking myself. I feared losing what little I had, so I played small. I wouldn't take calculated risks. I told myself, what if it doesn't work? But one day I asked a better question, what if it does? That small shift in thinking opened the door to opportunities I'd been blind to before. A wealthy mindset doesn't chase every opportunity recklessly. It seeks calculated ones. It plans before it acts. It learns before it invests. It takes risks that are informed, not impulsive. And most importantly, it knows that money is a servant, not a master. Guarding your mind against poverty thinking means being intentional about what you feed it. Read books that expand your vision. Spend time with people who challenge your limits instead of reinforcing them. Replace "I can't afford it" with "How can I afford it?" Poverty thinking shuts doors. Wealth thinking looks for keys. If you want to change your financial life, you have to change the conversation in your head first. Money will follow the mindset, and the wrong mindset will chase away the money. Guard your mind well, because the fortune you build starts there. One of the greatest shortcuts to success is this simple idea: success leaves clues. Wealth isn't built by accident. It's built by principles, habits, and strategies that have been proven over time. If you're willing to study those who've walked the path before you, you can save yourself years of trial and error. When I started out, I didn't know much about money, but I knew enough to know that my way wasn't working. So I began studying those who had what I wanted. I didn't just look at their lifestyles. I studied their philosophies, their routines, how they made decisions, and how they handled setbacks. I realized that wealth had less to do with luck and more to do with following a set of disciplines consistently. The wealthy read. They ask questions. They seek out mentors. They don't try to reinvent the wheel. They look for the blueprints and then build on them. I once heard someone say, if you want to go somewhere, find someone who's been there and follow them. It's simple advice, but it's life-changing. You don't have to duplicate their life exactly. You adapt their principles to fit your own vision and circumstances. Now, here's the key. Don't just collect information, apply it. Too many people are professional learners who never act. You can attend all the seminars, read all the books, and take all the notes, but unless you put what you learn into motion, you'll remain where you are. Action turns knowledge into results. Look around. There are clues everywhere. In the biographies of great entrepreneurs, in the investment strategies of the disciplined investor, in the daily habits of the financially free. Study them. Take notes. Test what you learn. And when you find something that works, repeat it until it becomes part of who you are. You don't have to guess your way to wealth. The path has been walked, and the footprints are still there. All you have to do is follow them. If you want to know the real secret to wealth, here it is. Leverage. Leverage is the force that multiplies your time, your money, and your results without multiplying your effort. The wealthy understand that there's only so much you can do with your own two hands and your own 24 hours. But when you learn to leverage systems, people, and investments, you can create income and impact far beyond your personal capacity. Early in my career, I thought hard work alone would get me there. I worked long hours, stayed late, did it all myself, and yes, I made progress, but it was slow, and it depended entirely on me showing up every single day. The moment I stopped, so did the income. That's not freedom. That's a trap dressed up as success. The wealthy think differently. They ask, how can I set something in motion that continues to produce even when I'm not there? That could mean building a business that runs on systems and people instead of just your effort. It could mean investments that pay dividends, rent, or royalties while you sleep. It could mean creating content, products, or intellectual property that work for you over and over without additional labor. Leverage turns hours into assets and money into machines. When you invest in a rental property, for example, you're leveraging other people's rent to build equity for yourself. When you hire competent, motivated people, you're leveraging their skills to create value that you alone could never produce. Some people see leverage as risky, but the truth is, not leveraging is riskier. If your income depends solely on you, One illness, one accident, or one bad month can wipe you out. But when you have systems and investments working on your behalf, you create resilience and scalability. The goal isn't just to work hard, it's to work smart. Build things that work when you don't. That's how you multiply your wealth, and that's how you buy your freedom. At the end of the day, money itself isn't the real prize. The real prize is freedom. Freedom to decide how you spend your day. Freedom to choose where you live, when you work, and who you work with. Freedom to say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't, without checking your bank account first. I've met people with millions who were still trapped. They had the house, the cars, the status, but they were chained to a business they couldn't step away from, or to a lifestyle that demanded they keep earning at a frantic pace just to maintain appearances. That's not freedom. That's a gilded cage. True wealth gives you choices. It lets you wake up without an alarm clock if you choose. It lets you travel when you want, stay home when you want, and spend your time on projects and passions that excite you, not just on obligations that drain you. When I was starting out, I thought the goal was simply to make more money. But as I grew and built assets, I realized that money was just a tool that if used well, could buy back my time. And when you buy back your time, you gain the most precious asset of all, control over your life. This is why building wealth should never be about greed. It's about independence. It's about creating a financial foundation so solid that you can live according to your values instead of your paycheck. That means making decisions based on purpose, not pressure. The irony is that when you finally reach this level of freedom, you often find yourself wanting to contribute more, to help others, to create something meaningful. Because you're no longer running on survival mode, you're operating from a place of abundance. So yes, build a business, make the investments, grow your wealth, but never lose sight of the real goal, to live life on your own terms. Money is the tool. Freedom is the prize. Money is like a disciplined worker. It responds to clear instructions. It doesn't show up for vague wishes, half-hearted goals, or someday dreams. If you want to attract it, grow it, and keep it, you must give it clarity. The wealthy understand this. They don't say, "I want to be richer," or "I want more income." They set specific numbers, clear deadlines, and precise action steps. When I was younger, I used to make the same mistake most people make. I wished for more money. But I learned quickly that more could mean a single dollar. If your goals are that vague, your results will be too. I changed my approach. I started saying, I want to earn an additional $50,000 in the next 12 months. And I'll do it by launching this product, closing this many sales, and investing in these specific assets. Suddenly, my mind knew exactly what to look for, what to focus on, and what to say yes or no to. Clarity directs energy. It tells your brain what opportunities to spot and what distractions to avoid. When you know exactly how much you want to invest each month, you begin to design your spending around it. When you know the exact net worth you want in 5 years, you start making decisions today that line up with that outcome. The wealthy treat their goals like a blueprint. They know the size of the house they're building, the timeline to finish it, and the materials they need. That way, every move is intentional. Without that clarity, you'll wander from one opportunity to another, always busy but rarely productive. If you've been wondering why money seems to pass you by, maybe it's because you haven't told it where to go. Decide on the number, decide on the date, decide on the plan, then follow through. Because money doesn't just respond to effort, it responds to clarity. And the clearer you are, the faster it arrives. One of the greatest paradoxes of wealth is this: the more you give, the more it grows, not just in your bank account, but in your life. Generosity is not the act of giving away what you don't need. It's the deliberate choice to contribute, even when it costs you something. And that choice has a way of keeping greed in check and keeping your heart aligned with the values that matter most. I've met people who built fortunes yet lived in fear of losing them. They clung to every dollar, suspicious of anyone who asked for help. And over time, that fear poisoned their relationships, their joy, and yes, even their financial opportunities. Contrast that with those who give time, resources, mentorship, and you'll see a different kind of wealth. One that's rich in trust, goodwill, and influence. I remember a season when I didn't have much, but I decided I would still give a percentage of everything I earned. It was uncomfortable at first, but something remarkable happened. Opportunities began showing up. People I'd helped years earlier began referring clients, introducing me to partners, and opening doors I could never have forced open with money alone. Generosity signals abundance. It tells the world and yourself that you have more than enough. It also forces you to manage your resources well, because you can't give consistently unless you've built stability. And when you give, you create relationships that money can't buy. You earn trust, respect, and a reputation for being someone who looks beyond their own gain. This isn't about giving blindly or irresponsibly. It's about strategic generosity, supporting causes you believe in, helping people who will multiply the value, and investing in things that uplift others. Done well, generosity becomes a growth engine for your life, not just your finances. Wealth without generosity is a shallow victory. But wealth with generosity, that's the kind of fortune that multiplies across generations.